Ruby Bridges once said, "Racism is a grown-up's disease. Let's stop using kids to spread it." Welcome parents, judges, and my fellow competitors to the Patriotic Speech Contest. I am Linjoy Kingori from Foothills Elementary. I believe Ruby Bridges is the quintessential example of patriotism. At the young age of 6 years, she became the first African American to attend an all-white school in New Orleans, Louisiana. Ruby Bridges was a brave young girl who showed what it means to be patriotic by standing up for equality and justice. In 1960, at just 6 years old, she became the first African American to attend an all-white school in the South, at a time where segregation was still a big issue. Her courage helped pave the way for civil rights movement and showed the importance of fighting for what is right, even when it's hard. Ruby was born in 1954 in Tylertown, Mississippi, and grew up during a time where African Americans were treated unfairly. Restaurants, schools, buses, and other places were separated by race, and African American children were not allowed in the same school as white children. When Ruby's parents decided to enroll her in an all-white school in New Orleans, many people were angry. They didn't want a black child in their school, and they tried to stop her. But Ruby's parents believed in her right to education and encouraged her to stay strong. On her first day at William Frantz Elementary School, Ruby was escorted by federal marshals for her safety. As she walked to school, many people yelled at her, called her names, and even threatened her. Despite the hate and fear, Ruby showed incredible bravery. She walked into school every day knowing her actions were helping to change history. Her determination to get an education, despite the hatred around her, showed how much she believed in the American ideal fairness for all. Ruby Bridges' actions were a powerful example of patriotism because she stood up for the values of equality and freedom. Patriotism means loving your country enough to make it better when it's not easy. Ruby showed this by helping to challenge segregation and push for civil rights for African Americans. Her courage made it clear that no matter their skin color should have the same rights and opportunities in life. Ruby's story reminds us that true patriotism is about standing up for what is right, even in the face of adversity. She showed that being a patriot isn't just about waving a flag or singing the national anthem. It is about fighting for justice, equality, and the idea that all people are created equal. Ruby Bridges' bravery continues to inspire us today, showing us that one person, no matter how young, can make a difference in the world.
Ever wanted to know how Rosa Parks showed patriotism? Well, when it comes to thinking of an American patriot, you would probably think of George Washington. But today, I'm here to talk about Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks showed patriotism by sitting up at the front of the bus on December 1st, 1955, with refusing to give up her seat to a white man. She showed this by standing up to racial segregation and injustice. Patriotism is an important quality that started longer than you may think. The history behind patriotism means that patriotism is love for one's country or state, or it could be used as an attachment to a state or country. I found in this article, study.com, that patriotism can be used for another word for devotion. Patriotism can be used for many things, such as volunteering, acts of kindness, or being a good citizen. You can be patriotic, but how? You can be patriotic by giving homeless people money, showing respect, or acts of kindness. There's a lot of great American patriots, but today I'll only focus on Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks showed patriotism by standing up to racial segregation and on the Montgomery bus. I found in this article, Brainly, that Rosa influenced young citizens by demonstrating the importance of standing up for justice. Rosa Parks said, "You must never be fearful about what you are doing when it is right." You have a quote to show how Rosa Parks showed us that we could fight for our own beliefs by not tolerating everyday acts of injustice and oppression. Maybe one day you could stand up for yourself like Rosa Parks. This isn't all important because since the day she refused her seat up to a white man in 1955, since then, she has been an icon and role model for many people. I found in this article, AIHS, that ever since she did this, she sparked an enormous success in a boycott of many buses in Montgomery. Rosa Parks said, "I would like to be remembered as a person who wanted to be free, so other people would also be free. And that's why you should show patriotism, influence young citizens like Rosa Parks, and be successful like Rosa Parks. After this, you should go make America great again, and then maybe you could become an American hero. This should make you go outside and go help people in need and go help yourself. And this concludes that you should go work like Rosa Parks and go help our country."
Good morning, everyone. My name is Albi Halimi, contesting from Ira A. Murphy. Did you know that the U.S. does not have any official languages or religions? That is because America is a land of freedom and opportunities. I am proud to be an American because I could communicate with the internet, learn and go to school, and have safety with the military protection. First, I am proud to be an American because I could communicate with the internet. The internet helps government, families, and friends connect and so much more. According to the state of New Jersey, the internet helps government agencies improve quality, lower costs, and increase transparency by improving internal operations. You could do business across the country, distant relatives are not a big deal, and you could get connected with people around the world in seconds. Second, I'm proud to be an American because I could learn and go to school. If we didn't have schools, we wouldn't be where we are right now. And if we did not have schools, America would devolve in lots of ways. According to the University of MIT, society would initially fall back. Also, according to the University of GCU, education does help you to continue to grow as an individual throughout your life. This is good because you have schools, so we have more professionals and more jobs. Finally, I am proud to be an American because I could have safety with the military protection. We have military all around us, like in the water, air, ground, and more. According to archives.gov, the military's primary mission is to defend the country and its interests from direct threats. Also, according to the Department of Veterans Affairs, education benefits including the GI Bill, which helps veterans and their families pay for school and training. There are 452,689 people in the U.S. military. So, when you think about America, think of the things that America lets do, like communicating with the internet, learning and going to school, and having safety with the military protection. Our country gives us freedom, voices to live with, and being able to accomplish dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you, judges, parents, and fellow contestants. My name is Liliana Rodriguez, and I'm from Kachina Elementary. When our country was founded, all Americans weren't treated equally. They couldn't vote, people thought less of them, and some were told to do terrible things by other Americans. Some people, though, changed that. Some people, like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Harriet Tubman, made an incredible influence in our country. You may know Martin Luther King Jr. for his "I Have a Dream" speech. MLK fought for not only his rights, but every other African American's rights as well. A famous and effective quote MLK once said was, "Peace is more than all justice, and peace was not made for the sake of justice, but justice for the sake of peace." MLK said this quote because he believed peace should be the goal for everyone, even if it means sacrificing, or if temporarily putting aside demands for justice. MLK wanted to end racism and finally have human rights for everyone. So he made his "I Have a Dream" speech. In his speech, he spoke, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out to the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal." MLK said this in his speech to put the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal into action. As a result of his speech, civil rights activists ended racial segregation in the United States. MLK did his part in ending racism, as well as Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks fought against racism as well, but she didn't make a speech about it. She did an action in a bus that made people rethink about racial segregation. A famous quote Rosa Parks said was, "I believe we are on the planet Earth to live, grow up, and do what we can to make this world a better place for all people to enjoy freedom." Rosa Parks said this quote because she believed in not women's rights, not men's rights, but human rights. In 1955, Rosa Parks was told to give up her seat for a white man by the bus driver, but she refused and stayed in her seat. That action, by not giving up her seat, made people rethink about racial segregation. Harriet Tubman did similar. Harriet Tubman, 100 years earlier, escorted over 300 slaves from an underground railroad out of Maryland to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, even when she was one herself. A famous quote Harriet Tubman said once was, "There was one of two things I had a right to, liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would take the other, for no man should take me alive. I should fight for liberty as long as my strength lasted." Harriet Tubman said her quote because she not only fought against racial segregation, but she also fought for women's rights and against slavery. And she would fight until until she had no longer had any strength. MLK, Rosa Parks, and Harriet Tubman are the reason the world is like this today, where most people are accepted. They not only fought against racial segregation, but they also fought for women's rights. They are also not the only people who did, and although it may not seem so patriotic, I still feel and believe these three are most important for what they did. That's what Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Harriet Tubman did to positively impact our country and how they did it. Thank you for listening.
Staff, parents, and fellow competitors, I'm Atticus Brightwell in 6th grade from Skyview Elementary. Today I'll be talking about an important patriot called Benjamin Franklin and how his actions showed patriotism. Benjamin Franklin showed patriotism by becoming an important patriot. Benjamin Franklin played a crucial role in gaining the French as an ally. Even though Benjamin Franklin was a patriot, his son was a loyalist. Even though his son was a loyalist, he still fought against Great Britain and eventually won his independence. Benjamin Franklin also showed patriotism by aiding American troops. Benjamin Franklin persuaded the French to give aid and troops in battle. Benjamin Franklin largely helped secure Yorktown, which was a huge turning point in the war. Benjamin Franklin also showed patriotism by helping many people in his lifetime. Benjamin Franklin made a smoother alternative to the rigid tubes that doctors used back in the olden days. He also founded the Union Fire Company in Philadelphia, which helped save many people in case of fires. Benjamin Franklin also showed patriotism by signing the Treaty of Paris. For those of you who don't know what the Treaty of Paris is an important document that ended the American Revolution. For those of you who don't know what the American Revolution is, the American Revolution when 13 colonies won independence from Great Britain. So the Treaty of Paris was an important document, and important people have to sign it. The Founding Fathers, including Benjamin Franklin, signed that document. So the Founding Fathers, including Benjamin Franklin, had to be really important. Benjamin Franklin also showed patriotism by becoming the president of Pennsylvania. Benjamin Franklin had to make sure the early stages of America were in check. He also had to make sure the people didn't revolt and start war against each other. Even though Benjamin Franklin was an awesome patriot, some patriots can betray their country. Give an example, Benedict Arnold. Benedict Arnold was a chief officer in the American Revolution. Even though he was a patriot, he spied for the British for 360 pounds a year, or roughly 20,000 pounds in his whole lifetime, and got named the biggest traitor in American history. To sum it all up, Benjamin Franklin has helped many people in his lifetime, aided American troops, became an important patriot, signed the Treaty of Paris, and became the president of Pennsylvania. Thank you, judges, staff, parents, and fellow competitors for coming. And who do you think is the most important patriot?
Imagine signing the Declaration of Independence. Think of how great that would feel. Sit with your thoughts and ask yourself how signing this document will make a difference in America. Realize how many patriots have impacted our country. Even you can make the slightest difference on your country and community just by being loyal, being a volunteer for events, and most of all, having respect for others, being true in what you say or do, and having pride in what you stand for. Greetings, judges, teachers, parents, and fellow participants. My name is Violet Gunderson, and I'm a 6th grader at Sunset Heights Elementary School. I'm sure most of you have heard of Thomas Jefferson. You may remember that he has done many things for our country, such as being a part of writing the Declaration of Independence and having a position in the confirmation of our nation's capital city. You may be wondering, what would happen if our nation's capital city were not confirmed? Would the government change? The answer to that is yes, it would. Without it, the government would be very unsteady. But would we still have rights without the Declaration of Independence? The answer to that is yes, we would. Thomas Jefferson once said, "Patriotism is not a short, frenzied burst of emotion, but the long and steady dedication of a lifetime." Jefferson played a vital role in writing the Declaration of Independence. Chosen by the committee, he wrote the leading draft of this document based on his thoughts and philosophy, mostly working entirely on his own, in which the committee revised and edited so that it could be established and submitted. In 1776 to 1779, Thomas Jefferson served in the Revolutionary War. Although he did not fight in this war, he served as a delegate for Virginia. Jefferson was the governor of Virginia to prepare the country and militia soldiers for deployment. In 1776, Thomas Jefferson corresponded to a bill which confirmed religious freedom. This bill allowed people of all kinds to celebrate or follow their religion and give them the choice to follow it or not to without it going against their rights. Jefferson once said, "No man shall be compelled to frequent or support religious worship or ministry." In conclusion, Thomas Jefferson has made a distinct impact on our country just by looking at what changes needed to be addressed to make our country a better place. Realized he had been a part of all of these events and many more just to make our country free and fair. That is what makes Thomas Jefferson an amazing patriot. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, judges, parents, and fellow contestants. My name is Dakota Gibbons, and I'm proud to be a student at Altaloma Elementary. My topic is, what does the Pledge of Allegiance mean to me? Did you know the Pledge of Allegiance was to honor the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus' arrival to America? The main issue people had with the pledge was that it didn't have many words, so it didn't mean a lot to others. So that it didn't mean a lot to others besides the Americans, but the Americans wanted to honor their country. First, with the reason they made different Pledge of Allegiance, you may be wondering why I started with the pledge reasons. Let's have me start with the first pledge, then why they added more words to it. They added more words as the years went on. In 1923, the words, "The flag of the United States of America," were added. You may be saying why I started with what it means to others and what they added. My opinion to what it means to me is I am honoring my country. Also, I am honoring what I live in and to be an American. So we started with what it means to others and what they added and why they did it. So I have a question for everyone else. What does it mean to be an American, and why does the Pledge of Allegiance mean to you? As you know, patriotism is a conflict of honoring our country. You could show patriotism in many different ways. I show patriotism is by saying the Pledge of Allegiance at school. When I go to school and say the Pledge of Allegiance, it makes me happy to honor my country. Thank you for your time.
Hello, ladies, gentlemen, judges, and fellow competitors. My name is Rachel Bielman, and I'm from Apache Elementary. Today, I will be talking about what is patriotism and how young 5th and 6th graders like you and I can show patriotism. To begin with, from the Webster's New World Dictionary, they define patriotism as someone who loves or zealously supports one's country. One example of showing patriotism is standing up for the national anthem. The reason we stand up for the national anthem is because it is a sign of respect for our country. We also do it because it is a way of honoring those who have sacrificed their lives for ours, specifically the military. Young people like me and you can show patriotism. Do you know how? Well, we can participate in ceremonies like patriotic events, like Veterans Day. These are important because we can learn about how the history of the land we live in today became how it is today. Another way young boys and girls like you and me can show patriotism is saying the Pledge of Allegiance with a moment of silence after. A lot of people say the Pledge of Allegiance because it is a sign of respect to all the men and women that have sacrificed their lives for ours. The reason we do a moment of silence after we say the Pledge of Allegiance is to remember all of our fallen soldiers, firefighters, and police officers that fought for our freedom. When we do the Pledge of Allegiance, we put our hand over our heart as a sign of respect. The stars, stripes, and colors on our American flag have the purpose of representing our nation's greatness. The stars and the stripes symbolizes what life was like in the past and what it is today. And the colors on our American flag show the qualities of justice, liberty, freedom, and most importantly, the love of our country and its national purpose. Give me liberty or give me death, once said by Patrick Henry. Patrick Henry is an example of a patriot. A patriot is a person who strongly supports their country. A patriot is a person who is prepared to fight and defend his or her country against enemies. One connection to a patriot in my family is my grandfather. My grandfather was in the Army, specifically the Korean War. He worked at an Army hospital. This is one example of a strong and brave patriot. In conclusion, I'd like to leave you with knowing what patriotism is and how young 5th and 6th graders like you and I can show patriotism. Together, we can make a difference on how much patriotism is shown. A few simple ways to show patriotism would be to help a neighbor in need, not littering, picking up trash, and volunteering for community service, as all of these patriotic things show respect to both our community and nation. Again, my name is Rachel Bielman, and thank you for your time.
Think about it. What if you lived somewhere where you had to have the same culture as everyone else and had to be careful on what you say in case you go to court and get accused of a crime you didn't commit? We Americans are lucky enough to where we have the freedom to express ourselves in different ways, which is why our founding fathers created America. Welcome, fellow parents, teachers, students, and fellow contestants. My name is Mia Lugo, and I am proud to be an American because we have a diverse culture, freedom of speech, and a United States legal defense system. First of all, cultural diversity is very important to America. Cultural diversity is important because the Founding Fathers had new and exciting beliefs and ideas about America's future. The Founding Fathers are the men who first created the American Constitution. The American Constitution is the highest law in our country. The Founding Fathers believed that people with different cultures would form groups to create new and exciting ideas and concepts. Cultural diversity can create positive changes in our community by letting people explore new cultures and understand different beliefs, traditions, and certain holidays you may or may not celebrate yourself. I'm glad I live in a country where I have diverse cultures. Second, our right to the freedom of speech is a very important aspect in our government. It is important because our freedom of speech allows us to speak how we want, and those opportunities come from the First Amendment and the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is where amendments are written laws into our Constitution, and the First Amendment gives us the freedom to say whatever we want. Our government gives Americans these rights because the government wants us to express ourselves in forms of language. Freedom of speech plays a very important part in our government because the government wants Americans to be heard if they feel a law isn't fair or reasonable. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud of the First Amendment because we have a freedom to say whatever we want, especially when it means not getting in trouble. Lastly, the United States legal defense system helps protect Americans by giving us the freedom to the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment is written into the Bill of Rights just as I explained for the First Amendment. But the Fifth Amendment gives us the freedom to not say anything in court that can get us arrested for a crime we didn't commit. The Fifth Amendment also helps Americans when involving criminal and civil cases. When in court for a criminal or civil case, the Fifth Amendment helps by giving Americans the innocence until proven guilty to our Supreme Court justices. The Supreme Court justices are the highest justices in the country and have been in control of Supreme Court trials since 1869. I like how it can be innocent until proven guilty and that we have these amendments to protect our freedoms. In conclusion, I am proud to be an American because we have protection to our freedoms so Americans do not have to live in fear. We Americans have a diverse culture, and we can say what we want without getting in trouble, and we are able to defend our case when in court. I've talked about why I'm proud to be an American, but why should you be proud to be an American? Thank you.
Our country has lost the war. The communists are on their way to capture us. It's the middle of the night and we only have a few hours to escape. We are leaving our homeland behind along with everything we knew and everything we owned. Our cousin built a small boat just enough to fit our immediate family in. We sailed into the ocean not knowing where we were going and if we'll survive. Would you be able to make this important yet difficult decision in such short notice? Hi, welcome guests, judges, and students. My name is Caitlin Wynn, and today I'm going to be talking about how my grandmother made the decision to leave her homeland 43 years ago. After 5 days at sea, my grandmother's boat was luckily rescued to an Indonesian refugee camp. My mother was born shortly after. When they found out they were getting sent to America was the moment their American dream began. The famous historian James Churchill Adams quotes, "The American dream is that dream of land in which life should be better, richer, and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to ability or achievement." To fully understand the meaning behind this quote, we must learn about the reasons why someone would make such a drastic decision to decide to give everything up for a chance to achieve their dreams. The American dream is based on a variety of things, such as freedom, equality, and opportunity. Freedom in speech, religion, and beliefs. Equality to attend the same school, have the same job, and opportunities for everyone, regardless of where they came from or if they're rich or poor. For example, my grandmother came to America with nothing. She made sacrifices so her children could go to school and have better lives. She worked her best to learn her new language and a way of life to provide money, food, and a house for her family. Thanks to her sacrifices, her children were able to graduate with master's degrees and lead a successful life. America is the only country where refugees like my grandmother and her children are able to accomplish their dreams freely. I'm proud to live in a country where anyone can achieve their dreams through hard work and determination. I'm also proud of my grandmother's sacrifices so that I could live my American dream. I hope after listening to my speech, you can have a better meaning of what the American dream is and the sacrifices people can make to achieve their dreams. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Hope Booker, and I believe that the Revolutionary War was one of the most significant events in the creation of our country, the United States of America. It's a good thing we stepped to Britain, or we would still be small colonies. Our rebellion also resulted in the creation of the Declaration of Independence, one of the most influential documents in our nation. Most importantly, it gave birth to the idea of freedom for people. These 3 reasons are evidence of how the Revolutionary War impacted our country. If you think about it, we would still be small colonies if we had not rebelled against Britain. In fact, we would be British subjects. At the time, we were just 13 colonies being ruled over by the king. Suddenly, Britain started taxing us without any representation in Parliament. As if that was not enough, they made a law that said we had to house British soldiers. We would not stand for that. These unfair laws made us realize that we didn't want a royal family ruling over us and unfairly taxing us. It was time for us to take a stand. If we had not fought against Great Britain, there would not be a Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence demanded our freedom from Great Britain. It also highlighted who we are and our identity as Americans. Even today, it inspires people around the world to fight for freedom. Look around you. We would not be the powerful nation that we are today without the Declaration of Independence. Our rebellion heavily inspired the concept of freedom for the people. The idea of freedom allows you to make choices without anyone holding you back. However, as my social studies teacher likes to point out, you're free to make the choices you want, you're just not free of the consequences. The American freedom allows us to speak freely, express ourselves, and to live without fear. Be thankful that our founding fathers won against Britain just to grant us the freedom we have today. According to Oxford Languages, patriotism is devotion to and vigorous support for one's country. Thousands of patriots went to war against Britain just to grant us the freedom we have today. The majority of these patriots did not come to see the start of the USA. They died on the battlefield so we could have independence. The least we could do is take care of our country. Their sacrifices fill me with pride and appreciation. Many things came from the Revolutionary War, such as freedom from Britain, the Declaration of Independence, and the idea of freedom. These have shaped us into a powerful nation that will continue to be a beacon of freedom and hope for generations to come. Thank you.
Robert Kennedy once said, "Few will have the greatness to bend history itself, but each of us can work to change a small portion of events, and in the total of all those acts will be written the history of this generation." This means that not all patriots were presidents and politicians. My great-grandfather's uncle was one of those people. His name was Hubert Chambliss. Uncle Hugh was born in Long Beach, California on January 1st, 1918. In October of 1941, he got married to Nell Arvey and was happy with life. 2 months later, Pearl Harbor was bombed by the Japanese, so he decided to leave his life behind and enlist in the Air Force. He once sent a letter to a friend that said, "Flying kind of gets in your blood. The first day I took a ship up alone, I had a big thrill, but after a few times, it becomes part of you." After 9 months of flight school, he trained pilots for about a year. Finally, he got to serve his country overseas. He flew a B-24 bomber called the Flak Happy and was stationed in Italy. He was sent on a mission to Linz, Austria on November 11, 1944. He was half an hour away from the target when there was a problem with engine number 2, and he had to leave formation and try and make it back to the base, even though it was dangerous. While he was flying over northern Italy, another engine took a direct hit from enemy fire and they started going down. He told everyone, including the co-pilot, to get to the back of the plane and into crash position because it was the safest place. With all the strength he had, Uncle Hugh was able to land on a field in what is now Croatia, and as the co-pilot described it, it was the best landing he had ever made. Sadly, there was a rise at the end of that field, and when the plane hit it, it was completely destroyed. Uncle Hugh was wounded so badly that he was knocked unconscious. The rest of the crew was taken as prisoners of war, but they all eventually made it home safely. Uncle Hugh, however, died about 10 hours after the crash because of his wounds. He died on the 11th month, 11th day, with a crew of 11 on his 11th mission. Later, his wife received the following letter signed by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. "In grateful memory of Second Lieutenant Hubert Chambliss, who died in the service of his country. He stands in the unbroken line of patriots who have dared to die that freedom might live and grow. Freedom lives, and through it, he lives." Uncle Hugh gave his life for freedom, like so many others, but while it wasn't him alone that changed American history, he changed his small portion of events and gave all that he had for his country. And if that's not patriotism, I don't know what is. Thank you.
Welcome, fellow judges, students, and guests. My name is Wayne Dawson. Imagine standing on a cold December night by the Boston Harbor, watching a group of colonists dressed as natives sneaking onto British ships. One by one, they throw huge crates of tea into the water, sending a message to the king: "We won't be treated unfairly anymore." This important event was called the Boston Tea Party. Today I'll be talking about why the Boston Tea Party happened, how the colonists took a stand, and why their bravery still matters. Why did the Boston Tea Party happen? The Boston Tea Party happened because King George III taxed the colonies heavily, but the colonists had no say in the matter. The king taxed goods like sugar, paper, and tea. The colonists were upset because the king only taxed them to pay off debt from the French and Indian War and to remind them that Britain was still in charge. The British claimed that their military protected the colonies, so the colonists helped pay for the war with their taxes. However, the colonists had no representation in British government to voice their opinions. For years, the colonists were forced to live under the king's rules, laws, and taxes without any input. Eventually, they became furious and started standing up for themselves. "No taxation without representation." This was a common phrase among the colonists. It meant that they refused to pay taxes unless they were given a voice in decision-making and other matters. So on the night of December 16, 1773, about 100 colonists took action.
They snuck onto British ships and threw huge crates of tea into the water, 342 chests in total. This was a huge act of rebellion, and I bet it was an amazing sight to see a bunch of angry colonists dressed as natives sneaking on the British ships and throwing crate after crate of tea into the freezing waters. The Boston Tea Party wasn't just about tea, it was about standing up for what is right. The colonists were willing to take risks to make their voices heard. This event inspires my patriotism because it shows that ordinary people, like the colonists, can stand up for what is right. The colonists weren't famous leaders or powerful heroes. They're regular people, just like you and me, who stood up for what is right in their lives. Patriotism to me is more than just celebrating the 4th of July. It's being grateful for our freedoms and standing up for what is right, just like the colonists did. Thank you for your time, and I hope we can all take inspiration to stand up for freedom and fairness in our own lives. Thank you.
Have you ever heard someone talking about patriotism? Wondered what it is? How can we show it? Good morning, judges, parents, and fellow contestants. My name is Taylor Ramirez, and I'm here to teach you about patriotism, what it is, and how young people can show it. When I started going to school, I showed patriotism by saying the pledge and showing respect to the flag. And I think you should be patriotic too. Today, I'll be saying and explaining how to clean up your community, participate in charity events, and even celebrate holidays. Do you want your street, neighborhood, or even city to be covered in litter? I don't think you do. So a good thing to do is help out and clean up your community. Cleaning up your community is super important because it can teach you to love and support your country. As John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country could do for you, ask what you could do for your country. This quote shows that you can't just wait for your country to do everything for you, but that you have to help out your country. So, if you don't want your country to be covered in litter, be a patriot and help out a little. Being patriotic doesn't mean just doing one thing. Another way to show it is by participating in charity events. This is super important because people in need would really appreciate if you spend a couple of dollars on food or toys to donate. As Annie Frank said, no one has ever become poor by giving. It's not about how much you give, it's about how much love you put into it. So, you should give to people in need, like donating food, clothes, toys, shoes, or even games you don't use anymore. Have you ever lit in fireworks on 4th of July or any other holiday? If you have, it shows how much you love and want to support your country. As Oliver Homan said, one flag, one land, one heart, one hand, one nation, evermore. This quote shows that you should love, support, and represent your country, like celebrating 4th of July. Celebrating holidays could go a long way for being patriotic, so next time it's 4th of July, just celebrate. Finally, being patriotic is a great way to be loving and supporting your country, and in the same time, think your country isn't the greatest. You could be patriotic in many different ways, like cleaning up your community, participating in charity events, and celebrating holidays. So next time you're invited to clean up your community, are you going to say you're busy or are you going to make time? Next time you have stuff that you don't use anymore, are you going to throw them away or are you going to donate them? Thank you for your time.
"1776, New York City. Flames everywhere, buildings burning, patriots battling for their freedom. After the Revolutionary War, America gained its freedom from the British and became its own country. General George Washington was praised along with several other men, like William Howe and Henry Knox for their bravery. This had me thinking, what happened to all the women patriots that also made America better? Ordinary women like wives, teenagers, and even slaves. Close your eyes and think back to 1776. You probably wouldn't think women would be fighting in the war because people thought they couldn't do it. Maybe they thought they weren't smart enough, maybe not strong enough, or maybe just not enough. But they were proven wrong. Open your eyes. Does the name Captain Molly ring a bell? Her actual name was Margaret Corbin, and on November 16, 1776, Margaret dressed as a man and followed her husband into battle, where she helped him load the cannons. And when he was hit, and killed, she quickly and heroically took over firing the cannons until she was injured. What about 16-year-old Sybil Ludington? Yes, 16. Not much older than us. According to Battlefield.org, she was the female equivalent to Paul Revere. Yes, that Paul Revere. The famous, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" She rode twice as far as Paul Revere just to wake our armies. Finally, we have Phyllis Wheatley, an African-American slave who wrote patriotic poems about America and George Washington. She was later the first African-American woman to be published. Women, just as men, just to fight, rode in storms to warn soldiers, wrote patriotic poems, cooked, sewed, and even helped injured men back to health. These women are patriots and should have their names easily remembered. Women made America too. Women helped America become what it is today. I invite you, judges, parents, and fellow contestants, to talk about Margaret Corbin, Captain Molly, Sybil Ludington, and Bessie Ross. Tell their stories about how they didn't let gender or race hold them back from fighting for America. I can't wait to see what new names we add to the list. My name is Harlow Snow Fields, and I am proud to be an African American girl.